president got put into play, the liberals attacked him from day one and has continued through. Now, you ask yourself, why? Why is the politics of it so important? Well, learning to ask the right questions is exactly where we start. And that's what we have to help our kids to understand, is how to ask the right questions. I hope that as I start to express some of these things and share the information that I have learned, I hope you can't figure out where I'm necessarily headed, but you can figure out where my passion for truth, freedom of speech is, and the fact that I want you to be able to make your choices. To me, that's what's most important. Now, as far as the internet goes, there's been some other issues happening too, where, how do I say this? Well, let's just use an example. Are you all familiar with Facebook?
Yeah.
Facebook started out saying, oh, we got this great way for you to network with people. You just friend them and build up a following, and whenever you put something up, it'll show up in their news feed, and everything is great. Well, Facebook people forgot wasn't there for them. Facebook was there to make money. So what a lot of people didn't know is that Facebook every year made changes to their rules and to their processes. They did not realize, I should say the audience did not realize, that everything was being moved toward the most profitable solution for Facebook, not the most convenient way for us to network with each other. So they started tracking how often you were speaking and communicating with other people and other groups. And they started studying your advertising needs. They wanted to pinpoint exactly what you needed in advertising so they could get more and more stuff to you. Now, have any of you realized that one day you're thinking, you know what, I need to look into, we got a party coming up, I need to get some balloons. So you do a little Google search on balloons, and within a day or two, all of a sudden, every time you're on Facebook, you get these balloon ads. Guess who's tracking you? Facebook knows exactly what you're up to. Now, to make that even more profitable, they realized that some of your friends actually sell painted balloons or decorative balloons, and they don't necessarily want you to buy it from your friends, but what they want you to do is buy it from the people paying them to advertise balloons. So they will start blocking those friends of yours so they can't see that you're in need of balloons, but they'll let the companies know that sell balloons that pay for the advertising. So they literally can manipulate things in that way. Is that making sense, or am I getting too technical? You're good? Okay. When you start looking at things like that, you start to see the fact that there's areas in Facebook that have a page. And the page allows startup businesses or first-time people or celebrities or even local bands, that type of thing, to kind of have their own little promotional area. Most people think, oh yeah, I'm going to like him so I get to know what's going on with that group because I like to follow them or whatever. Or maybe it's a band that plays every summer at the fest and I just want to know when they're coming back to town, that type of thing. Well, Facebook has now blocked that type of thing. Even though you think you're getting all their feeds, you're not, because they're trying to force the band to pay for more advertising to get the information to you, even though you're already connected. Mm-hmm. So you see how this is becoming more and more of a financial game? If you understand that, you're in a good place. Because they can't pull it over on you, because you know that you're being used. And you know that your buying habits are being tracked. And you know that they're pinpointing their companies to go after you. And the companies that you'd rather deal with are being blocked because they're not paying for Google ads or Facebook ads. Okay, so now that we got that straight, let's shift over to TV for a moment. Oh, I would say back when I was in college, I would say that there were maybe 400 TV shows a year. This year, there were 5,000 TV shows. We're talking about new shows. 5,000. Now, how many of you saw all 5,000? Isn't that crazy? It used to be, when I was growing up in this area, you had a choice between ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, and WGN. That was it. Most towns had 2 TV stations. We had 5. And then Chicago got even more important. We added channel 32 and 64. So we had 7 stations. Even back then, there were too many shows to watch. Now there's more than 10 times that amount to watch. And now you can watch on cable, or you can watch on streaming. And if you think that nobody knows your viewing habits, you are wrong. Everybody knows your viewing habits. They know exactly what you watch, and they track it. And on your cell phone, there's a lot of things being tracked there too. You're well familiar with the fact that there's lots and lots of apps. Have you noticed that even some of the most simplest apps, when you click on them, they ask if they can check your GPS? And you're like, wait, this is a tic-tac-toe game. Why do you need to know my GPS? And then they're getting clever so that you don't just say no. They say, just available while I'm in the app. But most people forget that once you go to another screen, unless you turned off the previous app, it's still on, and it's still draining your battery. And it's tracking everywhere you go. So today, you have a device that tells somebody exactly where you have been at every moment of the day, everywhere that you have been. Okay, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the story of 1984 by George Wells. Yeah, Big Brother. It's a reality today. It's a reality. There's enough information on you that if they focused on you, they could, whoever they is, they could do whatever they wanted to. And it would be really hard to fight. And they know that. Have any of you seen the recent movie, Dark Waters? Okay, Dark Waters is a scary movie. And no, it's not a horror film. It's a true story about what DuPont did with chemicals in our food and how our lives have literally been changed as a result of what they did and the cover-up and what they hid from the public. I recommend you go see it. First of all, it's an Oscar-worthy film. It's out in theaters right now. And second of all, it will wake you up to things that you didn't even know were actually real. But it is. Now, I have to say, at this point, I got to pause and say, some of the stuff that I'm sharing is scary, but I'm going to get into the hopeful stuff just shortly here. There's a way out of this dark hole. We can make this work. We can benefit from it. I just need you all to actually understand that there is a true battle going on. Because if you're not a part of the battle, you're a part of the people being taken advantage of. And we don't want you to be taken advantage of. I don't want to be taken advantage of. Right? We want to be able to help each other. We want to get control over this system that's starting to take over. Boy, this almost sounds like a political statement, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry about that. I hate politics, by the way. But I do know what the media is doing. For instance, I used to direct the news. So I knew when the general manager said the story has to read in this way, I knew what that meant. You have a clip this long. Can I use the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a clip this long, and it's made of lots of segments of the story. And we know that if I cut it off here, and I start it here, I can get my political point across. You won't know any different because it looks like a real clip from here to here. It looks real, like, oh my gosh, did it really happen that way? I just saw it for myself. But without what led to it and what came out as a result, you have a completely different story. This is being done every single night on the news. My sister, who is a, how do I say this? You're videotaping this, aren't you? I guess I'm not going to say it.
Fine.
I know a person, I don't want to get in trouble with my sister, okay? She was raised to think highly conservative. In recent years, she is highly liberal. And when she watches the news, she gets fueled up and very upset whenever she watches this. Because she knows whose fault it is, and it's whoever is opposed to her. That's whose fault it is. Why? Because that's what the news wants. The more conflict you feel, the more you watch the news, the more money they make because of advertisers. That's why the news is never, oh, Sarah Jane did this wonderful thing the other day. Right? Rarely will you ever see that. Maybe they'll throw in one or two positive stories, but usually only to say that LGBTQ or something like that is a positive effect, which of course is another political movement. But within here, you only have a part of the story. And one day she was watching C-SPAN, and she saw this all the way to here. And she said to me, you know, maybe I'm wrong about Trump. And I'm like, you? What? And she said, yeah, here's what happened. And she told me the story. And I'm like, wow, that actually sounds pretty good. Then we both were watching the news that night, and they showed this, and oh my gosh, it was Trump, an evil person. That's how dramatically different it was, because of the way it was captured and presented. Now, I don't care which people you voted for, and frankly, I did not vote for who you thought I'd voted for. In fact, I can't even pronounce the person's name that I did vote for. Let's put it that way. But the fact is, whenever you see the news, ask yourself, what might have happened just after, and more importantly, what happened just before? Because you are only getting what they want you to see. And the they is the people that are making money based on who are paying them ad dollars. You have to understand that so that you know how to protect your kids. Now, in the film industry, same thing goes on. There was an age called the Golden Age of Cinema, from 1933 to 1963. Do you know what the Golden Age of Cinema was? They were excellent, well-made, highly creative films that were safe for the entire family to watch. 1933 to 1963. In 64, things started going south, and all of a sudden there was a big push to move to R-rated films. R-rated films were hardly ever made prior to that, but in 64 they decided to move into R-rated films. Would you like to know what the difference was between 1933 to 63 versus 64 and on? There was an office in Hollywood